Hello everyone, welcome to Mining Now. We are filming these from CIM in 2024 in Vancouver. If you want a timestamp, this is the night of the second round of the third game of Canucks versus Oilers. So if you're a hockey fan, this is a very important day. And this is also the first time DSS Plus has been on the show. We're going to actually have three guests on the show. But we're going to start with Helder Santos, right?
Yes, correct.
Helder, welcome to the show. First time on Mining Now, first time DSS Plus on Mining Now. Let's start with just your intro. What's your position with the company?
Yes, I'm the global head for our mining and metals industry practice, so I basically support our teams across the world to help our clients on the mining and metals industry.
How long have you been with the company?
I've been over 20 years on operational transformation consulting and with DSS specifically for the last 3.5 years.
Wow. Well, let's. What did you start in this position?
Back 20 years ago, no. Back 20 years ago, I started as a consultant.
Yeah.
At client sites, helping them transform their organization. So boots on the ground. I've done a lot on mining. Obviously, that's why I ended up in mining, although I'm not a mining engineer from the start. But I ended up, South America, in Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, doing a lot of transformation projects, boots on the ground, helmet on the head, and they're helping frontline supervisors, middle managers at transforming their organizations, improving their performance, basically, across the world.
So with that, pivoting into the DSS Plus, for anybody who doesn't know, how do you sort of, in 2 or 3 minutes, in a nutshell, I know you cover a lot of ground as an organization, so.
Yeah. No, thanks, Jared. So what are we known for? Obviously, we are experts in operations and we are experts in transformation. That's really what we bring to our clients with a component which is our purpose-driven component. So it is known, and we've been known several times as DuPont Sustainable Solutions. We did carve out from DuPont back in 2019, and for 50 plus years we were a technical advisory body inside DuPont.
Okay, I want to clarify this, because
Yes.
for anybody who doesn't know, so this is a spin-off.
It's a carve out from DuPont Chemicals.
Right.
Yes.
And that happened in 2019.
2019.
But
yes.
the service was still being provided. This is not new service,
no.
just new, basically, branding.
Yeah, it was a management buyout, so we did carve out with our IP, with the same services that we had been providing to our clients over the last 55 years that we've been working, but with the ability, obviously, of being an independent management consulting to reach out and to grow into other fields where we were not so much known. We are highly known as safety experts and risk experts, but today we operate as well on operational efficiencies and on sustainability, energy transition, decarbonization, that type of topics.
And were you part of that carve out?
I joined after the carve out, a couple of months after the carve out.
Oh, okay. So from just a branding perspective, I was just curious. Is there obviously the opportunity, because you're sort of not limited to being within? You can you can go further afield to the industry, but sort of educating people, is there any sort of confusion of DSS Plus sort of branding in the marketplace to say, hey, this is what we're doing, this is who we are?
No, I think we've been going through that program, obviously, because for several years we're known as the DuPont people.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So we had our own marketing transition, because when we carved out still as DuPont Sustainable Solutions, and a couple of months after we became DSS Plus.
Yeah.
The plus being the additional support and services that we are bringing to our clients. And obviously we don't refer ourselves as DuPont anymore. Obviously we cannot and we should not renegating our legacy, obviously, which is, and if I go back to your question, how are we known and where do we want to be known for? Yeah. It's really that operations and transformation perspective, but that comes from an owner-operator legacy component. So a lot of what we do comes from those 200 years of history of DuPont, with best practices around processes and management systems and mindsets and behaviors.
Yeah, it's such an advantage having that support, but now there's new opportunities in the market. Must just be a huge and very interesting.
It is, and very interesting for me, and I can talk about this because as I was saying, I didn't come from the DuPont legacy myself.
Right.
And although I've been 20 years on the consulting industry, a lot of times you leverage the technical know-how of the client and you focus more on the change management,
Yeah.
bringing some best practices, etc. A very interesting component that I found when I joined DSS Plus is actually the technical element and the technical expertise of a lot of our consultants, because a lot of the time they're not really consultants. A lot of our people are ex-plant managers, ex-maintenance managers,
Yeah.
ex-heads of capital projects management. So with a lot of operational expertise that we transform or that we bring to our clients to help them transforming, obviously adapting to their realities and adjusting to their realities. So that's a strong element.
That's actually, I've got the next section I wanted to get into. So you're you're setting me up for this one. Is what is the main challenge that you're tackling? To give us a little more context, we cover so much on this show. Right while we're filming, we got Hecla Mining literally doing an episode 15 feet from you, and I'm sure he's talking about opportunities, but also the challenges in the industry. What are the main challenges that you're seeing, that you're tackling, but also that are being brought to you?
Look, I think obviously from a mining industry perspective, we can talk a lot about geopolitics and other components, but at the end of the day, as being an operational transformation consulting, we focus on what are we hearing on operational issues that the clients are bringing to us, so that we can try to help them sort those linked with our purpose of saving lives and creating a more sustainable future. So we see a lot and lots of clients coming to us with a topic that Don and Michael are going to touch in a little bit more detail around companies that have done a lot of effort improving their safety performance, but are still faced with fatalities or serious injuries, so life-altering events, as we say, and having invested so much, why are those, and even seeing lost time incident frequency rates reducing significantly, all of a sudden being caught by those elements. So safety culture, critical risk management, and how does that contribute to reduction of serious injuries and fatalities is clearly a topic that we get a lot of requests from our clients and that we are supporting significantly. I think one of the key topics for the industry is still license to operate, and obviously across the operational angle, everything that is around safety and risk and how you treat your people is a fundamental element, and more a topic at the board level, because there is a tremendous impact on your valuation as a company. There is also, and as always, this is no mining company is an NGO, so operational efficiency to ensure the right profits, the right efficiencies across the value chain is an element also that we are tackling and supporting our clients, even because a lot of the times when you talk performance, it is really managed at point of execution on frontline supervisors. And the frontline supervisor does not manage safety separately from efficiency, separately from the morale of the team. So that ability to influence a culture, whether you are focusing more on safety, whether you are focusing on operational discipline, is a fundamental aspect of what we do.
It kind of leads me to a question that it's going to be a little scattered, but I'll try to piece it together. I guess what it actually comes down to is, what does it look like, though? Because I have these conversations, and they're important topics, but sometimes what gets lost in is, what does it look like on a Wednesday when you're dealing with the client? Like that actual expectation. You know what I'm talking about? It's just sort of, we're talking about big challenges, keeping people alive, right? What does it look like when DSS Plus either shows up or is in a meeting? What does the support look like on the ground level?
That's a very great question, Jared, because at the end of the day, this is definitely not staying in the boardroom or staying in the meeting room. You need to impact people at point of execution. So typically we focus on what we call our technical model, which is we do look into the key processes and the key systems that are in place, okay? Basically your standards, your instructions on how to work. But that's not good enough, right? I mean, that's just saying we've got the right books, we've got the right way defined, but then what happens at point of execution? So we do focus obviously on trying to understand at point of execution what happens and how are things acted upon, okay? And then what tools exist at the different levels to ensure that we are managing the outcomes that we expect. Because a lot, and it's not only on the mining industry, but a lot of what you see is leadership positions, especially at middle manager, supervisor level, that are typically people that have had a good career, good technical career,
Right.
a great maintenance person that became a team leader. But a lot of companies have not necessarily invested time and equipped these people with management tools. So they've got the technical tools, but the ability to influence a team, to work a team is something that is not a lot worked on. So what we do is really focus on the processes, on the management systems, on the mindsets and behaviors, on the skills of the people, so the soft skills and the technical skills, to understanding where are the gaps that are leading us to a poor performance, whether that performance is operational or safety.
So when you're saying you're looking at those skills, are you then going and meeting with the executive team, with the on-site managers, and are you talking to them? Are you getting profiles on their team? Like what?
Observing people on how do they execute this. So we're spending time with them.
Like you're at the operating mine.
We are at the operating mine.
Okay.
We are at 1,200 meters underground. We are at the processing plant. So you really need to understand what happens at point of execution, because obviously no one gets up in the morning to drive whatever kilometers to get to a workplace to perform badly. Generically no one, or to be unsafe, or to try to kill themselves. So understanding what is defined as an organization should operate, but then how does it get translated into how you really operate, and the gaps between those, what are the root cause beyond that. Sometimes it is because top leadership does not necessarily display the appropriate message, because they get involved in other directions, in other topics that are more prevalent, and they forget that people will act as their leaders act, right? So that is a fundamental aspect.
I imagine you also see it's a little bit of a forest through the trees scenario too, right? Where people are on the ground, you're sort of in it, and now you coming in and you're seeing this. You're seeing it with fresh eyes. So instantly you're picking up on things that they're just walking by every day or glossing by every day.
It's the typical, and sometimes also a lot of things are known but not necessarily brought in, because you may have cultures where you kill the messenger or you shoot the messenger.
Or even know how to piece, like we know these three things are happening, but how do we actually piece this together and make it coherent?
A component that I've seen also over my last 20 years of going, and I've worked in over 40 countries in this world, so you see a lot of different things is people actually understand that those things happen, but they don't understand the intensity of which, yes, I knew this was happening, but I thought it's, once in a moon life.
Right.
And actually when you are able to show that, no, this is the day-to-day life of the situation, then you get into another element. So going back to your question, Jared, so how does it look like on a Wednesday, right?
Yeah.
So we typically, by looking into these systems, we normally start with doing an assessment of the current situation to identify those gaps, but then designing the solution for the client. What needs to be different? What do we need to change on the process, on the systems, on the mindsets, on the capabilities of the people, and then supporting that without technical expertise and really. So it's not about leaving a report behind and telling clients this is what you need to do. We'll come back in 6 months and slap you if you don't, if you haven't done it. It's really putting in the hands where we're talking to and working with people to transform them, but also to leave behind the know-how on how to do this, so that the next time you don't need, for the same subject, to bring an external party. You should be able on your own to have learned on how to do these things. And
then moving on to the next thing that they need. Just before I let you go, just because of time, I wanted to ask, has all this, again, we do a lot of episodes about technology, of data collection, all that information now that mines are just getting, it's just pouring in now to them.
Yes.
Do you get into sort of helping them sift through that, just understand what you mentioned, they think something's an isolated incident, then realize it's actually happening more. Is that happening with data where they've got so much now and just helping them make sense of it? It
is, and it's actually one of the things is you need to integrate the big data into your management operating system, and how do people at point of execution act on that data? There's a lot of data. Sometimes there's very little information. So
Yeah.
what does all that data mean for a supervisor, which has a team of 10 at 6 o'clock in the morning that is about to start the shift? How does that information flow to the main risks that he's going to face, to the main objectives that he needs to accomplish, to the morale of his team? So how do all these elements come together? That is a fundamental aspect. So digital for us, or technology for us, is an enabler to that performance.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it's a tricky world because I think sometimes people, they think of data as a way to get around experience, and it's a way to facilitate experience. I know a lot of people don't think of it that way, but it's a temptation to go, if we just had if we could just get the numbers. No, the numbers need to dictate action.
And you still need someone that decides what that action means.
Right,
You know?
exactly.
That's why there's so much worry and quite well with AI and what's going to happen with AI. But at the end of the day, there's always a human aspect on how do you make that decision. There's a lot of decisions that can be automated, obviously, but that's been part of the last 50 years. When you look into data control boards and alarm systems, it's already data that provides an action, or that forces into an action. But you cannot totally outsource that to another component.
We're going to get Don and Michael in here, thank you, Helder, for coming on the show. It's the topics you're touching on, we could go for another 40 minutes and not even blink.
For sure, and I know Don and Michael will deep dive a little bit into serious injuries and fatalities and what we've been doing in there.
Yeah.
But obviously, and just final, as I was saying, we've been also seeing clients coming to us with operational efficiencies, energy transition and decarbonization. So all these topics are topics that we are helping our clients on that implementation at point of execution.
That's my hope is, the experience of being on Mining Now is that we can do more and really dive into like some specific examples, maybe have with your clients on like that. That's what this show is about. It's about actually digging in, but setting up these important topics so people know sort of where we're going, and then you go a little further. I know
we will be pleased, Jared. So,
yes.
Okay, so thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, we've got Michael Hystron. Did I say that right?
Yes, you did.
And we've got Don Martin. I've been practicing Martin for
well done.
Ever since I knew you were coming on the show. Okay, so you're both. What are both your titles? Michael, start with you.
Principal with DSS Plus. Correct.
Okay,
and also a principal.
Yeah. So, how long have you? So, were you right from the founding of the company then?
Yeah, I started right when we became DSS Plus, when we carved out of DuPont. So I've been with the organization about 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm 4 years with the company. I joined a year after Michael did.
Okay. And what sort of? I'm always, just before we try to jump into the heart of the interview, what's a day-to-day of your operations? Don, start with you.
Well, the day-to-day of the
for you, personally.
What does my day look like?
Yeah.
Well, I work with a variety of clients during the course of a week, but it's a lot of leadership consulting and leadership coaching on how they can do things better or differently in the safety space. So a lot of executives, they didn't learn a lot about safety when they were in business school. Mm-hmm. And then they got into these fantastic executive jobs, and they want to know what they can do to protect their people better. And when I work with them, it's about going way beyond regulatory compliance issues. And so on a given day, if I'm at a site, I could be working with executive teams or individual executives or safety committees or other types of work teams that are working on fatality prevention. When I'm working from home, it would be a lot of online, Teams type meetings with those same executives, working with them on advancing their knowledge and their skill sets around being a better safety leader and targeting better ways to prevent fatalities in the workplace.
It's funny, I've never, in all these interviews, it's never come to my mind, because a lot of the, and I know some of the executives and CEOs of mining operators, a lot of them come out of like the banking system, that I've never thought, they've never done a safety course.
Right.
Why would they?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
and the safety courses that they do teach are mainly around regulatory compliance.
Right, like sort of checking boxes.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
So I have a lot of questions to expand on that, but Michael, what's your day-to-day?
Jared, I have the greatest job in the world. Every day I wake up in the morning and I look in the mirror and I say, we're going to save somebody's life today.
Yeah.
And it's really been interesting as DSS Plus has evolved in the organization. You can see from our tagline, protect, transform, sustain. We're about helping organizations really get to safe production and doing it in a sustainable way. And so we're able to craft really unique solutions that solve problems that organizations never been able to tackle before. So as Don was saying, we can work with executives, and they might have a operational risk initiative, they might have an operational excellence initiative, an ESG initiative, but we've developed organizational capabilities that we can combine all three of those pieces, so a senior leader, a C-suite officer, a board of directors can have a single initiative that the entire organization can rally around and work on. So my job is great. Sometimes we're in a mining operation, and I put on all the safety gear and get on an elevator and ride down 5,000 feet and work with gold miners or zinc miners or whatever. And then the next day I'm in a suit and I'm in a corporate office somewhere working with executives and talking about what we found and how they can make their operation more productive and safer.
When you're saying about these, well, you're both saying about the discussion you're having, and something that comes to my mind is I did an interview, and it was an interesting one, maybe a month or two ago, and the gentleman went, he was in Peru, and he said what he found. He's a fellow from Australia. He came over here, and he said what he found in Australia and Canada, he had a tougher time figuring out where people's problems were. But down in Peru, people were just telling him, we're dealing with this. They would just give him the information because they wanted it sorted. And which leads me to, I was wondering, how difficult, and both of you can jump in on this, is it to find where, are people coming to you, they already know what the problem is, or are they coming to you saying, hey, we think we need to look at something? I'm just wondering about those first initial conversations, because it's always an interesting point.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of both. Sometimes they come to us and they say, well, we've already pinpointed what our problem is. Here it is. Help us solve it. But more frequently, people describe really some of the symptoms of their problem or some of the outcomes that they're experiencing. And then the best way for us to go about it is to do some type of a diagnostic. So maybe it's an assessment, maybe it's a walkthrough interviews, maybe it's a type of a safety perception survey. But if we're enabled to conduct an assessment, we can do a proper diagnostic of what their problem really is, and we can pinpoint that problem. And once you can pinpoint it, then you can come up with one of the solutions that Michael talked about that is custom-made, tailored for that particular company in that particular situation.
How much conversation and digging does it take to get there? Like before you get to a solution, what's like on let's say a mid to large scale operation?
Well, if we go to a site, let's say it's got 3,000 people, we might spend about a week, 10 days at that site doing focus groups, doing interviews, doing observations, looking at their production and how they're executing on that. Look at some of the safety risk and challenges they have in the organization. And as Don was saying, a lot of times they might be spot on maybe what one of the problems are, but by doing a very comprehensive assessment, we're able to maybe diagnose 2 or 3 or 4 issues that then we can put together a solution set that will drive all those in the right direction. And a lot of times there are issues that the senior leaders didn't even realize they had.
Does, even in the last few years, has those solutions, just for you, what you're offering, has those evolved quite a bit, though, because you end up talking to DSS Plus is pushing pretty hard in the industry, so I'm sure you're having lots and lots of conversations. Does it sort of evolve now for you as what you're piecing together for people? Does it change? Has the approach changed, I guess, is that what I'm asking?
Yeah, I think so. I think we learn how to ask better questions. So we during these assessments that Michael was talking about, we have to interview a lot of people. So we may interview 15 or 20 executives. We may interview senior managers, frontline supervisors, and the types of questions that we ask them have to get the information that we're looking for. And I think that's one big thing that's evolved is it's just like the quality and the type of questions that we would ask to explore why a particular situation might exist. And so by asking enough of open-ended why questions, you can really start to track down the pathway to the origination of that problem, and then your solution set would lie in there.
You know, it's funny. We were doing like a fake interview, just setting stuff up here, and someone asked, actually Devin, who's producing, he said, "How do you?" Someone was joking, like, "How do you feel right now?" And he went kind of, and then I said, "Well, what was your favorite goal you ever scored in hockey?" And then he actually had an emotion. Remember that, Devin?
Yeah, he lit up, right?
Yeah, it changes. When you get specific, you're not thinking about the emotion. You're thinking about the thing you're talking about. The emotion comes with it because it comes with a memory and that. People, now, I guess to clarify, who is the decision maker? Who brings you on site? Who's your go-to typically? Would it be at the executive level, operations manager?
It's typically at an executive level in a lot of the organizations we work with. Sometimes it's a board of directors.
Yeah.
If it's a large enough site, sometimes a site general manager. I mean, we deal with sites that are 3,000, 5,000 employees in size. We've been to sites with 30,000 employees. So folks with that type of responsibility under their belt, they really have vested interest in making sure that they are operating as productively as possible, as safely as possible. They're minimizing their risk. And you ask us what types of leaders come to us. Some of them are really mature on this journey that they're heading in, so they want to get upstream in some of the challenges that they have. So they don't wait to have a problem to come to us. Sometimes they're sophisticated enough to say, "Hey, look, I'm starting to sense that we could be doing better in this area. Come help us get in front of this thing before it becomes a challenge." And those are, frankly, our best clients.
So then I'm picturing those. So that's your champion. That person is. They say, "Come on in." Maybe the 19th person you interview is going. It's actually they know their section is the one with the challenge, or they think it is.
Could be.
That's what I'm quite curious how you. As soon as you said about asking questions, I thought, right, you've got to actually get in front of people. Some of them are not going to want you there, quite frankly.
Well, exactly. And you did something a minute ago where we were talking about what was the best or favorite goal you ever scored.
Yeah.
And the passionate type reaction you get, we see the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So when these leaders and managers and frontline workers too that we're interviewing, there are certain subjects that they show a lot of passion around, and when their eyes light up and their hearts open up, you can really start to understand what it is that's bothering them, and then you're on the pathway to solving that problem. So we're always constantly on the alert for where those workers and where those managers are, where they're showing their passion, where they're spending their time, and the types of reactions that they're getting from other folks when they talk about those particular topics.
So I've worked on decommissioning mines. I've worked in the construction industry. Safety, saving lives, it's really championed in one area. But once you get on the ground and people start working, people, in construction, the harnesses, and, people get annoyed with it, and they're talking around the lunch crew, oh, this is new regulation that's come in, and they're, we could have just done it this way. It would have been twice as fast. And, the conversations that happen. Has the culture shifted? Do you think, though? Do you see people on the actual operations level, the people that are pulling the levers, are they into it now? Do they want you there having these conversations, or do you still have to work for that buy-in as well?
That's the goal, is to get them there. Sometimes maybe they'll display something that we would call overconfidence bias. Where they're overconfident in their capabilities and what they think they know and what they think the solution is. And part of our job is to go in there and maybe shake that up a little bit and introduce what we would call a sense of vulnerability, that maybe there are some things that they don't know about or some issues that they're not aware of that could send them down a pathway. So, for example, we could go to a site and the management team might be talking to us about their recordable injury rate. They say their recordable rates are too high, or they've plateaued and they're not improving, and we want them to go from a 2.5 to a 0.5. And when we get out into the field and we start interviewing the workers and the crews and the supervisors that are performing the work, what they're concerned about is the fatality risk that they're facing. So they're not concerned about the muscle strains from ergonomics and things like that. What they're concerned about is management not paying attention to the things that could cost them their life.
Right.
And so this is an example of that sort of disconnect.
Very interesting. Yeah.
That can happen between what's happening on the floor and what's happening up in the conference rooms.
Yep. Anything to add to that?
Yeah, I definitely align with what Don was saying, and maybe build on that by we get an opportunity to work with every level, from the board of directors all the way down to the frontline miner.
Yeah.
And in that process, we get to have an opportunity to see the safety champion emerge from people. And
Right.
sometimes it's the senior most leader, and they don't even realize that they had a passion for this, and they start changing their entire leadership style. When they do that, it starts to have a significant impact on the organizational culture, and you start to see that permeate throughout the entire organization slowly at first, and then that rate of change starts to pick up in a pretty rapid fashion. The other thing that we see is, even at the frontline level, that there are diamonds in the rough. There are hidden gems of frontline folks that don't have position power, but they have influence power, and their colleagues look up and they respect them. So if it becomes powerful to them, then they start saying, wow, maybe this is onto something. And what we try to do is move people to say productivity is important. We want safe productions, and I'll credit one of Don and my old colleagues that used to say, safe production done right the first time, Stan Owens. Great safety leader. And, we want to move to that, but you get to see people say, hey, I can find a smarter way to produce and do it a lot safer. Yep. And it's coming from the people who do the job every single day, and they're the ones that know the risk. They're the ones that know the opportunities better than anybody else. And to see that emerge from a frontline worker or a frontline supervisor is so exciting. And you know what? 99 times out of 100, probably 100 times out of 100, they're right. And organizations, you build that camaraderie between everybody in the organization at all levels to be set on that common goal.
And this is the thing that really great leaders who understand their influence on culture, so a really great thing that they do is that they unleash that power in their front line. So they meet with their frontline workers and they say, here's the problem we need to solve. And maybe it's a reliability problem or a maintenance problem or a safety problem. That frontline crew, they've been dealing with that situation for probably years. And they have discussed among themselves a lot of the potential solutions. Those great leaders go out there and open that up. They unleash those workers to say, here's an idea, and then they take the ball and they say, let's try it. And then they try it, experiment with it, get feedback back to the crew. And those leaders are the ones that have a better opportunity to advance the culture in the direction that they want it to go at a pace that they want it to go.
Right.
When we talk about culture, one of the things we see, and we describe that when an organization is really starting to mature, in DSS Plus's Bradley curve, the more mature phases of a culture are independent and interdependent. When I move to an independent culture, I recognize safety is really important to me. I want to be able to go home and hug my son or pick up my granddaughter or go play ball with the kids in the neighborhood or something. I mean, I realize that if I get hurt, I'm not going to be able to do those things. Yeah. So we go to work and we do that, but the really important stuff is the stuff that you do when you're not at work. And if you get injured doing that, then that's not going to happen. When we get to that interdependent phase, you kind of evolve to another level that says, not only is safety important to me, but it's important for all my colleagues. Yeah. I need to put the younger workers, the inexperienced folks under my wing and watch out for them, teach them, make sure that they learn how to stay safe on the job. Or it could be, how do we produce a little bit better? Or it could be a ESG problem, like we need to reduce our wastewater. So all those kind of pieces, we help the organization move and develop those organizational capabilities and that culture that enables that performance.
And just to carry that with an example. So you mentioned the issue of wearing fall arrest harnesses when you're working at height. Yeah. Well, in these less mature cultures, reactive and dependent, people will wear a safety harness because they have to, because the regulation says they have to, and they realize that if I don't, I might get in trouble. When you move to these more mature culture models, independent and interdependent, there's a shift in their thinking towards commitment. And that is, I am so committed to my safety and your safety that I'm going to make sure I wear a fall protection harness, a safety harness, and I'm going to help you wear yours too, because the reason that we're doing this is that so we can go home to our families every day.
Yeah.
And so they take it upon themselves to look out after each other,
Yeah.
and they coach each other up on these really nice protective safety practices, hallmark of a mature culture. And that comes from, leadership support and leadership sponsorship of that.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm someone who has, like, my way of working now, not now, working before, like, it kind of horrifies me because I was one of those people that went, like, bare minimum, like what I have to do without getting in trouble. And I look back on that, and it's I mean, one, I'm very fortunate that I didn't get hurt and no one around me
aren't
got
we
hurt,
all?
right? And but now if I went on a site, I'd have no time for it. I'd have no time for somebody doing. I'd be like, why?
Right.
Why would we not take the extra 20 minutes?
Exactly.
We're going to get a paycheck either way.
Yep.
Let's take the 20 minutes and let's get out of here safe.
Yeah, let's get out of here and enjoy that
and
paycheck.
so you can. I mean, I'm someone who has changed the way that I would look at doing it. Have you gotten involved in like these studies around the industry? Have you sort of gotten outside of the DSS Plus and directly with clients? Have you went sort of further afield into the industry to sort of gather data and kind of look at?
Absolutely, Jared. So about 2 years ago, we started getting approached by a number of mining organizations. So Don and I had the privilege to be involved in a mining industry serious injury and fatality study group. And it ran its course, and it came up with some pretty strong findings. And
that was the one that was like almost 10 years ago.
Yeah, that was about 10 years ago.
10 years ago.
And some of the organizations that we work with said, hey, we need to reconstitute this serious injury and fatality study group. And we had some good findings with that group, but the technology has changed, the capabilities have changed, we learned a lot more, and you know what? We still have some challenges in the field. Despite all the good work that we've done, miners are still getting killed, and we want to study this as an industry. So we assembled a group of 7 major mining organizations, about 100,000 employees, a combined total with the 7 operations. Operations in Africa, Europe, Asia, Australia, North and South America. So it was global representation.
60 mines, I think.
Yeah,
around
60
the world.
mines, and everything from hard metals to everything in between. So it is a really strong representative sample, and we have been studying the causes of serious injuries and fatalities in the mining industry over the last 1.5 or 2 years.
Wow. Is it? I mean, we'd probably need a whole.
You could probably do a whole session. On
just digging into that. But it was informative doing that. And that is that ongoing though?
We just wrapped up our last meeting a couple of weeks ago.
Wow.
And the remarkable thing about this was that these 7 companies very openly shared with us and with each other 39 different events that were either fatal or near fatal. And we had very open and deep conversations about the causation factors, the contribution factors behind them. And then we started crafting, what are we learning from this? And what can our own companies and other mining companies around the world do to help get ahead of this fatality curve? The transparency of those conversations and the emotion that was packed behind it was pretty remarkable.
Yep. Wow.
These companies, they had a safe environment. Of course, the lawyers were involved and said it was okay. We had lots of...
we get that in the interviews too.
We had a lot of disclosure agreements we had to sign. But their ability to just be very open and transparent about exactly what happens and then what we can do to help prevent was pretty amazing.
I need you to, gentlemen, to do an introduction to Roy Slack. Do you know him?
Yep.
Do you know him? Yeah, because he's, I mean, I don't know if there's anybody that champions safety in industry more than Roy. He's just
Roy's been a solid leader in this area for many, many years, and a fantastic representative in the industry and helping people stay safe.
Yeah, it's great to have people like that championing it.
Absolutely.
And then just before I let you both go, is there any? We've talked a lot about safety, saving lives. Are there other areas though that you are focusing? Maybe just give the audience a little bit of a snapshot of other areas that you're supporting Canadian mining operations, or globally. I mean, people all over the world listen to the show. So.
Oh, absolutely. So we do a lot of work in. I would call it maybe operational resilience and operational excellence. That requires leadership development. So coaching leaders on modern behaviors and modern practices that are oriented toward safe, resilient operations. We do environmental consulting, process safety management, ESG,
frontline supervisor development. So we've got, I think, the right formula in helping frontline supervisors, both in the productivity side as well as on the risk side, and really even touching on areas around ESG. So that is a big part of our relationship with organizations. A lot of times they have the organizational capability, they just don't have the bandwidth. And we can come in and really help them be a force multiplier in their organization to build these capabilities over the long term. Yeah,
and that's what I see. Even our little company, when I'm trying to manage it, and you get more. As we grow, you get more voices, you get more opinions, more data's coming in. You offer more services, and it starts to. They all matter, but you can own your bandwidth. Exactly what you're saying. And these mining operators, I mean, they're operating all over the world, and just there's so many moving parts, literal moving parts.
In very unforgiving environments.
And I could see how that just, I think I said it at the beginning of the interview, like seeing the forest through the trees. Just, there's no way you can, after, your 10 years of operations, you're missing stuff.
Right. Yeah.
You just are. And I guess a lot of times, is that sort of what it feels like? You're coming in there. They know all these parts. They just don't know how to
pull them all together and help them move in the right direction, and then have something to advise them and guide them and help them. Yeah. We've walked that. That's the fun part of Don and my job is we walk that path every single day. And for a lot of these organizations, this is the first time they're experiencing it. They're capable, but with some good guidance and with some good strategy and good planning in place, and if we can diagnose the issues with an assessment and help them pull that strategy together, they can be successful. Yeah. And you know what? Most of our clients are very successful in that endeavor.
It's very exciting to have you both on the show. And Helder, I was talking to him when he was on. I hope you're happy with your experience, and we do more with you, because I feel like it's like a little pebble.
Yeah.
We're just touching. I know there's a lot more we could dig into. So I hope we do that, because for one, it's very important. Everybody that's coming on the show pretty much is going to talk about safety. And so it's kind of fitting to kick CIM off with the first interview being so focused on saving lives in the
Absolutely.
industry.
Well, we appreciate having the opportunity to share this important topic with so many of your great viewers.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for sponsoring as well.
It's our pleasure.
Wow. Yeah. If anybody didn't notice that back there.
There you go.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Great.
All right,
well,
thank you.
And thank you, everybody, for watching. We've got lots more coming. If you just happen to just find the channel just now, make sure to subscribe, because there's a ton of episodes that are filmed right here at CIM for 2024. Thank you. We'll put links to DSS Plus in their LinkedIn, their website, their YouTube channel. Whatever way you want to check them out, go do that, as well as direct links to the LinkedIn for the guests that have come on the show. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We'll see you on the next episode of Mining Now.